Hi, everyone. We are going to get started, and we have enough spaced out before Lily introduces herself so that we can give her time to join us. Thank y'all for coming.
Yes, thank you.
This is Sustainably Supporting Black Women in Americana Roots and Country Music. My name is Brandy Waller Pace, and I am your moderator today, and we will all introduce ourselves. I guess I have to go first.
Yes.
I am based in Fort Worth, Texas, but originally from Atlanta. I'm singer, musician, educator, scholar, activist. I wear many hats, have many jobs. I founded and organized the Fort Worth African American Roots Music Festival, which happens every year in March and centers Blackness in American roots music. And this coming March, we will have Kishana playing in the lineup, and Reese will bring Color Me Country Radio back down to join us. I'm also founder and executive director of a nonprofit called Decolonizing the Music Room. Our mission is centering Black, Brown, Indigenous, and Asian folks in music education, research, and performance. In fact, FlamFest is one of our programs. And I'm program manager for the Black Banjo and Fiddle Fellowship based out of Oakland. It's a partnership between the Oakland Public Conservatory of Music and the Berkeley Old Time Convention. I am also program manager for American Composers Orchestra, and I'm also very tired. So, yeah.
Hi. I'm Reese Palmer. I'm a singer, songwriter, mother, maker of sandwiches, lover of shoes. And I'm the host of Color Me Country Radio on Apple Music Country, which gives platform to artists of color within country music, Americana music, and roots music. This is great because then I don't have to think about all the stuff that I do. I am also the administrator and creator of the Color Me Country Artist Fund, which has now morphed into the Color Me Country Foundation. It's a nonprofit that I run. One of the things that we do under this nonprofit is the Artist Grant Fund. It was established in December of 2021, and since then we have raised over $200,000, and we have granted over 80 artists with microgrants from $500 to $1,000, and also taken over 20 artists to Europe, all expenses paid, to play the Long Road Festival, and that's all done through donations and things like that. I'm also, I really am reading that. I am also a correspondent for CMT Hot 20 Countdown, and I am a governor for the Nashville Grammy Board. And I'm just really tickled to be up here with these people that I admire very much and respect. So, and also exhausted. But thank you.
Hello, I am Kishana. I'm a singer-songwriter, a licensed music therapist, and people have labeled me an activist. I'm just doing what I do. I do a lot of work in community too, so I'm a bit of a community connector. And I have an organization called Your Song. And Your Song is a therapeutic songwriting program. This is where I get to use all of my music therapy training and combining that with songwriting in the communities where my group and I tour through. And it's been hard trying to be active out in the communities on the road, but also be active here in Nashville. I live here in Nashville. So I'm on the board for the Centennial Park Conservancy, which does the Musicians Corner. We have the Parthenon. So it's great to be a part of community here. I also work with the Country Music Hall of Fame as an educator, teaching a lot of camps and young people how to write their story. Yeah.
So we'll have Lizzie No joining us, but I think a good topic of discussion until she gets here might be something you said about being called an activist, but just doing what you do.
Yeah.
I don't think that those who are not Black women and femmes in the music industry really think.
I think I hear.
Yeah.
Come on in, Lizzie.
Hey, Lizzie girl.
I think she's going to go around the front. You're good. Or
There
no,
she,
she's-
yay!
Beautiful.
No, you're fine.
And she's so cute.
Just in time to introduce her gorgeous self.
Hi. It's so nice to see you all. This is the best looking panel of the week.
I mean,
Putting a flag in the ground on that.
So we just went through and introduced ourselves and just told, well, that there's a lovely thing behind you if you need help. Just telling people who you are.
Hi, I'm Lizzie No. I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm the co-host of the Basic Folk podcast on the Bluegrass Situation Podcast Network. And I am the president of the board of Abortion Care Tennessee.
Yes.
Yes, our motto is abortion forever, no matter what. So if you want to learn more about that, hit me up after the panel.
I'm so sorry that I left Basic Folk off. It's like a very major
You have a
thing
lot
do.
going on, Brandy.
I was going to say, you're doing a lot of things.
One thing about supporting Black women is recognizing when your comrade has a lot on their plate and affirming that.
Thank you. And back to that first point, which is very timely. I don't think people understand everything that comes with being a Black woman, a Black femme in the industry, and Americana roots and country in particular, in the world. So no prescribed order. Can we talk a little bit about the things that people might not understand or see that we carry as we move about the world that are different when you're not a Black woman?
I've been out on the road a lot this year, touring this new record that I released in April called Legacy. Thank you. But the thing with this album is it's all about my family's story. And because I am of African American descent, my family's story involves enslavement. And so as a touring artist in the Americana folk world, our audiences are usually older, retired, white folk. And it's very rare for there to be more than me in the room, in the audiences. So when I'm singing songs about my family's history, I'm singing it to a room of people that do not look like me. And that is already a lot to carry. And it takes a lot of bravery to stand on stage and just tell your truth, knowing that some people may take offense. And I think what I've discovered, especially with this record, I am standing in front of very vulnerable, on a stage in front of people, talking about my ancestors' enslavement, but not in a way of horror, just in a way of, this is just my family's history. Nothing to be ashamed of, just something to recognize and make sure we don't repeat history. And I think what I'm noticing is, there's a lot that we do as Black women, as artists. Let's remove Black women out, just as artists, of armoring up to walk into a performance situation or any space where we are on a stage in front of people. You have to armor yourself up, right? We're already releasing a lot. We're sharing a lot. And I think what would be helpful, what we've noticed is it would be great if we knew where the safe places were and the towns we're invited into. It would be great if we were told what kind of audiences or what kind of community we're walking into. So when you invite an artist that looks like us into your spaces, are you preparing the audience for us, and are you preparing us for the audience? Because what happens is you invite us in, we stand on stage telling our truth like we did the night before, and in this room, though, people have an opportunity, because a lot of us are independents, so we do run out to the merch table and sell our own stuff, which means we have to have one-on-one contact with people. And it can be a very harmful time as an artist when you've already stood on stage telling your truth and speaking about hard things. There's no discussion. I'm not asking for opinions, right, when I'm on stage, but people find the opportunity at the merch table to tell me what's wrong with what I said, how they took offense to it. And I've always thought it would be so great if the places that invite us in just prepared the way. I heard y'all take sighs, so I'll lean back and let y'all interject anything that you may have to add to that.
I was just going to add, When you said the safe space, the first thing that popped into my mind was I just did an assignment. And this isn't to call CMT out because they've been lovely to me. I was put on assignment for the Countdown show. And I was asked to do a festival in South Carolina. And it was Flag Day at this festival, and it's a country music festival. Now, mind you, is there anything inherently wrong with the American flag? Absolutely not.
I don't know.
Well, okay. Yeah, I mean, 20,000 foot. Like, there's, we could have a separate panel on the other, but
I'll just hold it down for the communists on this end of the stage.
so
Socialist.
I get there, and like I think when people heard it was American Flag Day, they thought it meant it was MAGA Day. Yeah. So I literally walk into my assignment, and I'm interviewing, country stars and people that I've known for years and stuff like that. I am literally the only Black person in the space outside of people that are working security or people that are doing catering and that sort of thing. And it was one of the most uncomfortable days, and I didn't want to make it uncomfortable for other people, like for the people that I was interviewing, because I didn't want it to affect my interviews and on camera persona and all that kind of thing. So like at the end of the night, I was exhausted. Like it was just of watching these things happen and watching people stare at me and like people watching like intently, like what is she about to do or what are you gonna do? Or, oh, can I take a picture with you? And like that kind of thing. And
Ew.
I made a joke I tend to joke whenever I'm uncomfortable or like anytime. And so I made a joke to my producer. I was like, so you brought me in on Flag Day. I was like, was Klan Day? Somebody was already covering that? Like, he did not think about it, and we laughed about it, but I was just like, Ray, I really need you to, when you're picking something for Reese to cover, maybe think of something that's safe for me to cover. Yeah. Because I didn't feel comfortable walking to the bathroom by myself or like walking to go get food by myself or anything like that. And that's not because, I don't think I could handle it, but like, why should I have to? Yeah. I'm just here asking questions about your kids and your album. Yeah. Like, I don't wanna. So I think it's really important. I know it's hard to think of all the things whenever you're a producer or you're a curator or whatever, but like, it's those little things that I very much appreciate. And I'll give you a positive version of that. We do the Long Road Festival. I'm given a stage every year, and it's been awesome for 3 years. Long Road is in Leicester in the UK, and they're really good about making sure that there's nothing offensive or anything like that. But someone decided last year to bring a Confederate flag, and they were displaying it within eye line of our stage. And I bring all artists of color, Indigenous artists, Latinx artists, AAPI artists, Black artists, all that. So Caleb Cottle, I have to shout him out because this is really dope. He saw it. And he was playing an hour before our takeover started. He went to management and was like, can you please tell them to take this down? He said, because I don't want Color Me Country to come and see this and be uncomfortable during their set.
In the UK.
In the UK.
Right.
And I thought that was dope. And they have since, Long Road has since put it in their rules that you cannot display the Confederate flag at the festival. And like, that's care. Yeah. And I think that's really dope.
And it's simple things like, even before the shows happen, right? Before the performances happen, those kind of situations, knowing where to eat lunch, driving into a town and like, where can we eat? And then there's nothing in any windows saying safe space. So having the venues or the promoters that have brought us in, give us a list of here are restaurants that you can eat at. These are good watering holes if you want somewhere to eat afterwards. What are places that we know we're comfortable rather than we all take care of the people who tour with us. We are mother bears. I'm saying that I feel that way about the women. They're older than me, but I still feel like I am responsible for them. And again, we're already armored up before we've even hit the stage. So what are things that people can do and carry and support us in before we even get there, so we don't have to worry about it? That would give for me, I feel like I would have a better performance for your audiences if I did not have to worry about those things on the front end.
That's a really interesting way of putting it. When I read the topic of the panel, I had so many mixed emotions, because the question for me of like, how do we support Black women in roots music is like, who is doing the supporting? We already have got us. We're already doing it. And for me, like, I think often when we try to like appeal to gatekeepers or white folks in the industry who have power to like consider our particular concerns, what passes for support is often just another version of tokenization and another shallow reshuffling of the same power structures. So what usually feels best to me is to get money so that I can do what I know how to do. And like, actually, like, money and power are really like, that's number one and number two of like, how do we get free as Black women in this industry? Because like, kind of echoing what you all were saying, I don't feel comfortable touring solo anymore. I did it for years, and it's necessary when you're getting started.
Yeah.
But there have been too many incidents where people feel entitled to touch me, ask me personal questions, follow me to my car, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there's an entitlement that a lot of folks have towards Black women in particular, as if we are there to care for everybody instead of there to entertain and perform. So the best solution for me has been having a budget to bring my band with me, bring a tour manager out with me. And so, like, to me, the root of it all is pay equity. We need to be moving up to the top of the lineup on festivals. We need to be paid the same amount as white artists so that we can afford to bring support staff, folks to advance our shows, all of that, like, internal stuff that we're already doing. Often, like, as one-woman businesses, like, we deserve the resources and the support.
That's the end of the panel. Thank you so much. Give us money.
Like, give us some money.
That's it.
I put this up, just these are the general areas we're talking about, but y'all have highlighted a lot from the perspective of learning and advocacy, and I want to bring up how when we talk about race, because of racial construction in this land that is now called the United States, we think a lot in terms of Black folks and white folks. And something that I feel is really important to understand when we are talking about this, it's frustrating to hear, I don't want to be called a woman of color or a POC. I know the history of the terminology, and it's rooted in like co-conspiratorship, but I am Black. And people don't want to say Black. And people also don't want to admit that among every non-Black group, anti-Blackness is rampant. We have our own internalized anti-Blackness. There's a very unique space that the overlap of Blackness and womanhood or femmehood hold. And I think, aside from us talking to white folks, just because we're in like very white-dominated industries and spaces, and with the style of music we have, we really have to acknowledge that we deal with anti-Blackness from everywhere and everyone. And what that means, you mentioned something with the bad experience in South Carolina, and I'm so tired of hearing, oh, I didn't think about that. That's the phrase that drives me crazy now, because for me it's huge. We do need to think about that, and not, as Lizzie talked to, like putting someone in the place of being the token or someone being the teacher or whatever. And Kishana, you talked about people coming up to you at the merch table. In addition to the experiences that you have named, I also roll a lot in education spaces. And so I'll talk about these issues. I talk about decolonization, anti-racism, all that kind of stuff. And white folks want to come up to me after and tell me about how they grew up in the city where the Grand Wizard of the KKK lived. And I'm like, why is that what you wanted to tell me, that you related to the story?
I don't like that. Right.
I think people really need to understand that the ways that they relate to environments and issues are going to be different than how we relate to them. And so your story might be emotionally violent for us to think of, and not at all necessary for us to hear and process at all.
Can I ask you a question, Brandy?
Yeah.
So I had the opportunity to perform at the Fort Worth African American Music Festival, which you direct, curate, and it was such a special experience, and like, I think the best festival lineup I've been a part of.
Yes.
Full stop. I am curious how you and the folks that you work with made sure that all of the artists had a great experience. What are the things that you're thinking of in advance to make an event feel supportive, safe, and badass and fun?
First, those resources you spoke of, we have to get those. And me and people I know who are like me are very blunt and unapologetic, and are okay with being very forthcoming with what is not optional, what is a requirement for these spaces and for this programming. So for example, the festival is held in partnership with a venue called Southside Preservation Hall. Their board is white, the people in the office are white, but the relationship we have is built on them understanding where my work is rooted, and so I have very blunt conversations with them. So one example is, we were talking about volunteers to watch the doors and such, and they said, well, there's some off-duty cops and they can come be security, and I said, we're not having police at a Black event, like we're not doing that. And they were like, oh, okay. But they know me, and we have that relationship, and there are those of us who are positioned to be able to be that forthcoming. And again, back to resources, because it has come at a price. The way I speak up and the way that I conduct my business does not bring in the big bucks. But those are the kinds of things that I had to consider. And I like to think of just like little hints, right? Like I have the progressive pride flag up, or I have this up, like these things that people kind of see, and it gives them cues about the space, and sometimes it gives them cues to hush about certain things. And even as far as things like emceeing or having people speak, in between each set, I had someone from a Black-led nonprofit in the community speak. So we are establishing that presence. The way that I talk about and introduce the event, we're establishing that presence. And then what I really appreciated, we had a virtual first year, and then we started in person, and Reese Palmer came and did Color Me Country. And having a podcast in the middle of the day where there is a certain type of discussion, I think really frames why we're here and what we are and aren't about well. Last year, Lizzie interviewed Jontavius Willis, and it asserts what should be centered in the space. And it also, for me, is like an anti-tokenization, right? Like that first year that we were on stage with Reese's Black woman from the Midwest, from Atlanta, Georgia. Jake Blunt was Washington, D.C. Kaya Cater, Grenadian, Canadian, Justin Robinson. Like, there's no way you could look and be like, Black is this thing, right? So I feel like I meandered a bit. I think that answers the question.
That was great.
Oh, I love to hear about that.
That's beautiful.
Thank
But
you.
what I'm hearing is intention
Yeah.
behind who was at every spot at your festival.
Yeah. And I have to say, like, it kind of comes back, right? Like the way Reese walked in and treated me, the way Lizzie walked in and treated me, because we understand what it is to be Black women and femmes inhabiting this space. Like they came in understanding the weight that I was carrying in the event. And for me, like you can feel that energy with every lineup, just people understanding that it is not something that we really get to do together every day, and that it's heavy. It's heavy. Yeah.
I think so many of us are also running other programs and organizations outside of the work we do as creatives. We're also finding ways of speaking for those that have been silenced. And so seeing what other organizations we all are running, what organizations we're a part of, donating to those things, because it allows for us to keep the thread going. I mean, this is a legacy Reese is building, right? This is a legacy that is being built, a legacy that can affect a whole community. And yeah, like we said, it sounds, I don't know what it sounds like, but yeah, just give us money. If you're a grant writer, offer up your services to see how you can be of service. Because the thing is, if you put it in our hands, all we need is the money. We got the ideas. Just put it in our hands. And we are connectors. From my experience of all the artists that are in this community, we are all wanting to do more than just stand on a stage and sing. There's more behind what we're trying to do, but we need the funding. And we can't find the funding if we have to continuously hustle by driving ourselves in the van everywhere we got to go. So give us the money so we, sorry.
No, no, baby. No, you're cooking. Cook.
I feel like I'm being
Cook.
bathed in wisdom, anointed.
It's tea.
For real.
No, when you said it, I felt it deep in my soul. That's why.
I feel like there was a moment around 2020, and I would love to hear how 2020 was for each of you. My DMs were full of white people apologizing, confessing, and free associating. And there was sort of this moment where the idea, like, I feel like the trendy thing was like, you should offer Black people your mentorship. That was like sort of the like trendy way to like be an ally, and I get where that's coming from, because like greater transparency in the industry is helpful, but I do think we kind of went astray there, because there's a lie that we don't know how to do these jobs, and that we're perpetual newcomers, even though we are the originators of the genres, right? We're always on the outside, and let me give you a seat at the table. That sort of offer already implies I know, and I'm going to teach you. It's top down. What we need is power, money, and freedom to do what we know how to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'm a big component of, I will talk about reparations all day. There is, I think somebody tried to calculate the amount of money that, the trafficking of enslaved Africans was worth, and it was like beyond, it was beyond counting. Like, we are owed such a heavy debt, and not from a place of paternalism, but like we built this stuff, right? And we are constantly subjected to the result of that chattel slavery and what it meant. You talked about entitlement to our bodies, this idea that like the Black body is for the taking and the moving and the rearranging, and then more specifically to Black women who, gonna get very, very raw here, like could legally be raped and it wasn't called rape forever. Like the legacy of what we grow up being socialized to think about Black femme bodies. Like there's so much in it. So for me, looking at resources comes very much from a reparations perspective. I was gonna say I have a love-hate relationship with philanthropy. I have a hate-hate relationship with philanthropy.
Say that.
Because we're not being saved. We're being what is that word? We're being repaid. We're being reimbursed with interest.
Yeah. Something I'm interested in is how can we apply that idea of the obvious justice of reparations to the artistic resources that we bring and that have just been robbed from us. I think we all, probably all in this room, would agree that country, folk, Americana, rock, all of these genres come from the blues and come from an African American tradition, which is a specific artistic tradition. To me, that gives a freedom of I am part of a living tradition and I'm not asking anybody for permission anywhere that I go. But I wish that there was more acknowledgement that we are the torchbearers. of something that was actually taken from us. Like, we shouldn't be outsiders or, again, asking for a seat at the table. We are the center of this artistic tradition.
Yeah, it's kind of insulting to ask to be seated at a table that's in your house.
That I built for free against my will.
Yeah. Well, I want to say this. I was thinking you were saying in what ways. I think for me, so I started my career in country music. For those who've never heard of me or seen me before, I started my career in country music, and you know, and what is country has been a very big topic this year, thanks to a little album that you may have heard of from an upstart artist by the name of Beyoncé Knowles, local Texan, nice girl.
So much talent and
Yeah,
potential
so much
there.
talent. I hope things work
We
out
might
for
hear
her.
more from that one.
No, so much has been made about what exactly is country, and to those of you who are curators and producers in this space, I ask not just for Black women, but I ask for all people of color to consider that what is country to you looks very different in terms of what is country to me. I can speak personally and say that I started calling my music something different because I got tired of the arguments in the comment section and the arguments that I would have with curators that were, well, we want to put you on the festival, but you're not really very country, and you're not really this, and you're not really that. And so I started calling it Southern Soul because I was like, okay, that feels better, I guess. But then I was like, that's like a cop-out. Why am I changing what I call it? And people within the space that are making quote-unquote contemporary country are using things that are in soul music, that are in R&B music, that are in hip-hop music, and it's still allowed to be within the realm of possibility and consideration. And so the thing that this year has been really interesting for me because on the show, we've been exploring that question a lot. What is country music? Mm-hmm. And I ask every artist that comes on the show, you tell me what it means to you. Sometimes it means church. Sometimes it means Sunday dinner. Sometimes it means alligator shoes and gold teeth. Sometimes it means a jerry curl. Sometimes it means, you know, driving around in your uncle's pickup truck without a seatbelt and like 50 of y'all in the bed and like that kind of thing. But the point is sometimes country is the projects and it's not necessarily a farm. Or horses or anything like that. But country, it's a trailer sometimes. Or it's a tiny house in the hood that's your grandma's house. But whatever it is, it should be allowed to be. And those sounds should be allowed to be. Indigenous sounds should be a part of country music because that is what country music means to them.
What I'm hearing you say is, when I say who I am, believe me.
Yeah, believe me, and don't try to authenticity test me. Yeah. Like that was
The
something.
authenticity tests make me feel insane.
Oh, it makes me crazy.
Especially like I often, like when I play a country song, right, people are like, well, what do you know about that? Where are you from? You know, I grew up in New Jersey and New York, but my dad's family are from North and South Carolina. Yeah. And I shouldn't have to explain to a stranger, can you guess why we didn't stay there? Can you guess why my grandparents moved to the north? Like, we are one generation removed from that rural Southern Black history.
Yeah, 100%.
And so like the understanding that we're all part of the American, like we're all part of the American story, and that's what country music is about. That's one of the things that it's about, you know, like,
yeah.
Don't ask me to prove where I'm from and that I belong here.
100%. And I think it challenged me because I'll be perfectly honest with you. I grew up listening to traditional country. Mm-hmm. And so part of me changing what I called my music as well was me trying to be respectful of the music because I love it. And I was just like, I don't think it's fair for me to be compared to someone who is doing very traditional, straight ahead country music. Like, I don't think that's fair.
Sam
but
Hunt
then I was
isn't worried about it.
But then I was like, no, it is fair because it is exactly the same thing that you're doing. It's just coming from me, and it's my authentic, my sincere, whatever. And so I just challenge everyone, especially, while we're having these arguments about who's being nominated for awards and who's not, and what genre it should be in, and is it this genre and that genre, I really challenge us to think, maybe not necessarily genre, think perspective change. And like, before I say this ain't country or this ain't this or this ain't that, okay, well, where is this person coming from? What is their perspective? What are they talking about? And if it fits within these certain things, then like, yeah, it may not have a fiddle on it, but like this is, yeah. Just challenge the way you think about these boxes and why they are and why they exist. Because the whole idea, Dr. Amanda Martinez has an amazing paper. And I challenge you all to go home and read this. You can Google it. She wrote a term paper about when country music became patriotic and about America. And it happened at a very particular time. And there was a very particular reason why Ronald Reagan was involved. That's all I'm gonna say. But it was a calculated decision. This isn't organically what it was. It became this for a political, socioeconomic, cultural reason. And so why are we going to continue to uphold something that happened in the 1970s? Why are we going to uphold something that we now can look back on and be like, that's wrong? So that's all.
I think it's also beyond booking artists to fill your stages, to fill your rooms isn't enough. Great job, you booked them. But again, how are you supporting? Like, what other work are you doing to prepare the way? And are there people involved in your organizations or in your companies that have to deal with booking that can be that can see your blind spots, right? So that we as artists don't show up and end up in a harmful situation. So who do you have planning your events as well? So I'm hearing, give us money. When we tell you who we are, believe us. Give us money. And
if I could just add, I wish that every venue, particularly festivals that I played at, would send out photos of all the artists in advance to all of the volunteers, because I love volunteers who work at music festivals. It takes a very generous and music lover's heart to do that volunteer work, but at least a third of the time that I walk into a festival, I am being called by the name of another Black woman. And I think we can just be done with that. It's 2024, and we all have email, and we could just share the names and photos of the artists that are performing with everybody that's working the event.
I've been blocked from walking into festivals, even with a guitar on my back. And I'm like, my name is right there on the poster.
I recently ran outside of a venue, and then when I came back for the encore, I got stopped at the door.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a waste of everybody's time. It's beneath us.
So this kind of crosses over into my experience in academia. I think, we see our posters, we see the names, we don't really see the faces. And I think about how facelessness benefits whiteness and what assumptions people make when they just see a list of names, how that impacts us when we get into spaces. I remember being in a class and, we go through this syllabus and I'm like, so are any people not white in the reading? And the professor was like, well, I don't know that they're all white. And I was like, they white. But that facelessness contributes to those situations where nobody can even conceive of us walking in the door and being part of the experience and part of the event. And that visual, I think, is a really important way to reproduce that. And back to your question about FlamFest, we have been having pictures on posters every time because I wanted the visual to be very, very present. Because that's part of the narrative, is just impressing that understanding that visually we also belong here.
I never thought about that, but that's why I do the same thing. With Color Me Country, with the stage we do at Long Road. It's really important to me that you see yourself represented.
But that's that lived experience. We understand that, right?
I just never
when you
thought
have
about
to
it
grow
like
up not seeing anything, you want the visual out there.
Did you want to open the floor or no?
Let me make sure we have not skipped anything before I do. We talked about donating to organizations. to individual events, to album campaigns, all of this sort of stuff. I'm just going down, just make sure I'm not missing anything. Follow us on social media, and engage so we can try to beat the algorithm and share things. This goes to money. Buy our stuff, and share with others to buy. Stream and then buy that as well. Like the Alice Randall Songbook, I had the vinyl and I streamed so I can listen to my, very, very much material support. Yeah, but I think it would be good to open the floor. Yeah, thank you. Donald Cohen.
Hi, Donald.
So I've done all those, I'm a fan, I'm just a fan. I've done all those things for touring, I haven't, but I have found housing for friends
Yeah,
who are on tour.
yeah.
So what I want to figure out is how to get this beyond this room.
Take a picture of it and we'll talk.
Yeah.
That's a good question, because I'm going to be real honest with y'all. Yeah. Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He did merch
Yeah.
for me.
And I will have to say, if y'all get a chance to talk to Donald about Fan Alliance and its advocacy
Yes.
for artists'
more than a
rights
fan.
and just all kinds of stuff. I'll be honest with you, I do so many presentations, so I just end up like brain spewing, and sometimes it ends up visually very effective. And so I appreciate the question about what to do moving forward with this, because maybe it can be a thing.
I'd be down
Yeah.
to share that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Absolutely.
I think it's important to realize too what is seen, what fans are seeing on the gram, social media wise, is not really what's happening.
No.
It's hard out here in these streets, especially right now. The temperature in this country is rough, and we are a people that get to see all parts of this country. Not everybody gets this experience, right? To see what the community is like in Champaign, Illinois versus Selma, Alabama, versus Boston, Massachusetts, and to see all of that in a span of a month as an artist can be a bit of a mind warp. It can be a lot, and so I think understanding that, yes, having our fans and having those that are booking the venues understand we just are trying to get from place to place to place. That would be beautiful if we could just do that. But this other work, it's hard to be on social media when you're driving your own van and your own band around,
I want to say something which might feel a little bit woo-woo, but I feel like is at the root of some of the things that we've talked about, which is that, like, especially if you are white, you need to look within and connect with your roots, understand how your family came to be in this country, understand what is historically specific about your experience, your taste, the artists you're interested in, the way you look at the world. Because I feel like a lot of those weird interactions that we have at the merch table and, miscommunications with bookers and with programmers, it happens when, like, we come with our full authenticity and a lot of our self-awareness that we have to survive in this world. And it serves as a mirror to a white person who's never thought about it a day in their life. That's when we get the weird personal confessions. That's when we get microaggressions. That's when often we're the subject of sexual harassment and violence. It's because we are stirring up something in a white person that they've never taken the time to think about in their own life. So it's like the more self-aware you are about your own experience and, like, why is it that I was raised with so many, like, white men as the examples of, who's a great musician, on and on. The more authenticity and understanding you're going to be able to bring into your own work, and you're going to start to come alive and become aware of the areas of influence that you actually have. Because you probably have some little sphere of influence in your job, in your community, in your friend group, where you can be a change maker. but it starts with a little bit of self-examination.
I'm so glad you brought that up because we can talk about whiteness for a sec. We as Black folk, we talk about reclamation and all of our stuff, right? But what doesn't get talked enough about is in order to become white in this country, what white folks had to erase about their own backgrounds, their own culture, their own traditions, and what dominant whiteness means is really violent. It's like you lose all these wonderful things, and what you take up is the ability to own people and oppress people and keep people out of spaces. And I'm starting to get into my theoretical bag, but y'all know what I mean. And that looking within, shout out to this organization called the Rhapsody Project based in Seattle, Washington, and they work across racial lines, but from like the whiteness part of it, really go and look at like where are my people from? What are my people's cultural things? Because real talk, when it comes to like what is dominant and what is shoved at us, it's like guns, racism, the flag, it's just
And the
foolishness
oppression of women. Like
Exactly.
whiteness is very patriarchal, and I think that's something that we experience as like the foil to that.
And ableism, that's a whole other thing. But that's not what white folks' backgrounds are. That's what it means to be white in America and to have access to voting rights and land and property and people and exclusion and all that.
I just have a statement, which is my band has a sound check in half an hour, so I have to leave this, unfortunately, but I wanted to say thank you. So it wasn't like, why did that dude leave?
He stormed out in a huff.
Thank you for coming.
And you can leave your shirt when you go. Thank you.
Have a great set.
Love that. Have a great show.
Yeah. Did I see a hand over there too? No? No?
Person
Okay.
is-
Well, I wanted to say this. This is something really simple that you can do at home, those of you that are music fans. So this is, in the course of doing a show earlier this year, I did a 2-part series. You can check it out on Apple Music right now on demand. We did a series called What is Country Music, right? And so I had Chris Malamphy, who does a show for Slate, about the charts and that sort of thing, and then Dr. Jada Watson, who is one of my favorite human beings on the planet. And so we were having chart talk and algorithm talk and that sort of thing, and someone brought up the algorithm. So check this out. So I have a playlist on Apple and on Spotify called Color Me Country. And I put all the artists that I find of color that are within the realm, within these baskets, right? One of the playlists has like over 200 songs on it, and then the other one the Apple one has to be shorter because of guidelines and stuff like that. But anyway, needless to say, a lot of times these artists only live on these playlists. Like the artist that I put on there, that is the only mainstream playlist that they're being put on. What happens with these DSPs, and I need everybody to realize this, they're being programmed by the same people that are programming country radio. Like a lot of my bosses used to be at terrestrial radio. That's just the truth. And so they come and do the exact same job that they did at terrestrial radio on DSPs. So what does that mean to you, the casual listener? Well, if you are not one of, like I'll use an artist, Brittany Spencer. Brittany Spencer is on every playlist imaginable right now. She's on Color Me Country playlist, she's on Hot Country playlist, she's on Americana playlist, she's on Brandy Carlisle's playlist, like she's on all these great playlists. So anytime you listen to Brandy Carlisle, or you listen to Grace Potter, or any of these artists, you're very likely to hear Brittany Spencer, because she is on all these platforms. Now, I'll use another artist. Actually, I'm gonna use Rebecca. Rebecca is an artist that I love, and she was actually one of my class of 2024 artists. She's fabulous. Check out Rebecca Porter. Rebecca is on Color Me Country for now. For now. It's gonna be other stuff for you, girl. But the problem with that is Rebecca only comes up when you are listening to other Color Me Country artists. So if you are only specifically listening to Black artists, to AAPI artists, to Indigenous artists, that is the only time some of these other people are going to come up because of the algorithm. So, how can you help? What you can do is, when you are at home and you are listening to music, or you're putting together a playlist, mix artists in with mainstream artists. Put the Meg Maronis and the Brandy Carlisles and the Luke Combs and people like that into well, no, because the other name that just popped into my head I don't want to say. So I literally had a visceral moment just now. But anyway,
This is
That's
mind-blowing,
another
Reese.
panel.
I did not know these how the sausage gets made.
This is how the
details.
sausage gets made. So you have to mix us in order for us to have a prayer and a chance of being heard anywhere else. Because that's how Spotify figures out what you're listening to. That's how Apple figures out what you're listening to. That's how Amazon, all of them. That's how all of them do it. So mix your playlists up. And if you need help, go to Color Me Country. Like literally we have everybody. This is me up until 4 o'clock in the morning scouring the internet, trying to find people that I haven't seen before on the playlist. Because that is literally the only way. Like it breaks my heart when I go to someone's page and I only see you've gotten 1,000 spins on something. And that literally only happens because you only exist on one playlist. Like it's great to have country frequency. It's great to have, Black Americana playlists and all that kind of stuff. But please don't let these artists just live on these playlists. Or like country Latino, or boots and moccasins, or anything like that. Like if you need to find them, they are there, but put them in the rotation, in the regular rotation, because it changes the algorithm. And it also, by the way, it alerts our editorial staff. And if they see that you're getting, people that love Carrie Underwood are listening to Rebecca Porter. So maybe we need to consider Rebecca Porter for our hot country playlist. And you see how that works? So yeah, that's a really easy thing that you can do that's actually super, super effective.
That's also true in your recommendations, and even if you're not a radio programmer, I noticed that when the conversation about who are your favorite Americana artists, we start with a few main white names. How about just start with people of color? Just start there and consider us central. If we can invert the expectation and assume that Black and artists of color are the center of the conversation, that can help offset some of the other bullshit we have to deal with elsewhere.
Because it changes perception.
And I think sorry.
No.
Give us 4 off the top of your head.
4 artists to listen to? Reese Palmer.
Sable Sisters.
You gotta listen to Miko Marks. You gotta listen to Buffalo Nichols, Sonny Ward, Kara Jackson,
Kaya Cater.
Kaya
Kelly
Cater,
Love Jones, Rachel Rodriguez,
New Dangerfield.
Porter.
Yes, and Dangerfield.
Lady Nade.
Lady Nade is in the building.
Yes.
Lady Night!
If you see us hugging somebody, they are an artist.
Yes.
That's out here, so just be like, who's that? Write their name down.
Like I said,
I
my
love that
playlist is literally just this. So if you need, don't be ashamed. If you don't know and you want to know, the playlist is free. You have to have an Apple subscription to hear the show, but the playlists are free. That's why I make them for every DSP, even though I'm not supposed to. So don't tell my bosses that I did that. But yes, it exists. Yeah. Girl.
Right. I think something that all of this ties into is the difference between equality and equity. And what we've been experiencing is we're supposed to be treated like everybody else when the setbacks are way behind everybody else. Not inherent setbacks, those are systemic and structural and interpersonal. So these actions, leading with Black femme artists, centering us, this special attention, it's not really special though, it's just, equity just gives what needs to be filled in according to one's position, background, history, all of that. And so for me, it's really important being equity minded because equality would say, I'll just bill you as one person in a sea of people. But equity says, because of X, Y, and Z, this is why I'm not
Right.
billing you as the only Black woman.
Some of us
you know?
have water wings, and some of us have boats, and some of us can swim, and
Some
that's
of us
okay.
are under the sea in a hole.
But that's, equity is somebody sitting around and handing out the things that you need to help you do the same exact thing that everybody else is doing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I was gonna say, I think we're at our time. Let me give them the QR code. This has our websites and the websites of the organizations and affiliations that we
that's cute.
spoke to.
Oh, that's great.
It's Kishana was like, "Did you do a QR code?" I was like, "Yes."
It's genius.
that's wonderful.
And coming from education, like QR codes are just everything, everywhere, all the time now. Yeah.
Brandy, thank you so much
Yes,
for hosting
Brandy.
this conversation.
Thank y'all for being here. Lucy Palmer, Kishana, Lizzie No. Lizzie will be performing tonight at the 5 Spot at 8
Performing at the 5
p.m.
Spot at 8 p.m. I have a bitchin' rock and roll band. Olivia Ellen Lloyd is going to do guest vocals. It's going to be great.
Yes, and please come to the Fort Worth African American Roots Music Festival where Reese will be and Kishana will be. Don Flemings is headline. So technically the lineup's not out yet, but y'all are getting, you know.
Secrets,
You know,
because you can.
a couple of the secrets, but
It's a little
the
gift
lineup
you
is pretty
get.
kick-ass, so, yeah.
And it's up to
Oh my
you
gosh,
to
we have
decide which
to
is going to
talk
be a
about
more fun time.
scheduling. Scheduling against stuff is a whole thing, and that's a whole other panel.
There were so many
I'm gonna
great
be at Lizzie No's show tonight. I don't know about the awards, but yeah, scheduling. Don't have us doing dueling, dueling Black folks. It's not.
Not with each other, not with the bigger thing,
Goodbye,
like
Sarah.
just, yeah.
They said it. We have the Americana Fest is like a great celebration of music, and we have a long way to go.
Yeah.
And we have a long way to go.
And please support the spaces that are like, we're creating some like Black ass spaces and some racially minoritized folk spaces. Support those too, without, everyone doesn't have to be inserted in all the spaces to be supportive of the spaces, because there's a reason they exist.
Oh yeah, it's Saturday night. Come, I'm showcasing at Cannery at 9 o'clock. So come through, say what's up.
Thank you guys
y'all.
so much.